Hey guys, and welcome back to theBSofSociety. So, after I made the audio for the reasons why people hate the Genshin community, I ended up watching a video from Hero Hey, which was basically covering a discourse between two players in a co-op lobby. One player was trying to use Venti, and another was basically telling him, "Don't use Venti, he's useless." The reason why this person said that was because they were about ready to go into the Ashtaha fight. Now, this was almost perfect timing, okay? Because it's like, I just made a video talking about the reasons why people hate the Genshin community, one of those being co-op, okay? First of all, I would say both players were kind of being dumb. See, the player that was trying to use Venti, after that match, they ended up going onto Twitter and basically being like, "Oh, see, don't tell me to switch units if I'm dealing more damage than you." Okay, what the other player that was saying Venti was useless didn't know was that this player's Venti was a 10-10-10 Venti, basically like a fully built Venti. So, yeah, he's going to deal a lot of damage. Okay? But the reason why I say the other player was being dumb too is basically, why are you telling people to basically switch characters? Now, this person didn't force the player to switch characters. It was more of a recommendation, which I've done before as well. I can't remember if I covered it or not, but you remember that stage in Honky Impact that requires ranged units to be able to complete it? I have recommended players personally to switch to ranged units. But see, I have recently stopped doing that because of one reason. Okay? In Honky Impact, the co-op stages are pretty much raid stages. And what these stages end up doing is when you complete the stage, it locks your character. What that means is you can't use that character on the subsequent stages after that until you reset it or until you beat it. Okay? Now, when you reset it, you obviously reset all the rewards and basically your characters get locked again. When you don't, you basically are just doing it just to help other people get through co-op stages. That's basically all that is, right? So what happens is, let's say if you run across a player that only has 6 units. Okay? One of them being that one starter unit that is ranged, the rest of them not being ranged, okay? White Comet is kind of ranged, but she is entirely useless. Bronya is pretty much your only main ranged unit that you actually start off with. Okay, so let's say if you accidentally use Bronya on the first stage because this is your first time doing the co-op raids and you haven't really farmed anybody else, and so she's your only ranged unit. Oh, so now you're getting to a stage where you need ranged units, but your only other ranged unit is White Comet Kiana, who basically has like one attack that can actually hit the enemies on the other side. Yeah, people can't really tell you to go and get a ranged unit or to switch to a ranged unit because you don't have one. Okay? Now, this kind of goes back to Genshin Impact. Now, first of all, pretty much every character can fight in the Ashtaha fight. Now, I understand that for co-op, it can actually be pretty difficult because when you get hit without a shield, basically everybody on the team gets hit with like that damage over time effect. And the same thing kind of goes for Signora, except Signora, it's basically all the time, not just when you get hit, right? So both of those two fights, you might want to heal her. For Ashtaha, however, it doesn't really matter if you get hit when you have shields. So as long as you bring at least one Geo unit that can give you consistent shields, the fight should be no problem. And everybody that you bring, including healers, can be useful. Okay, especially healers. Barbara and Kokomi can basically... Barbara can give you full heals, and Kokomi can give you consistent heals. So there really isn't a problem with it. Okay? But basically what I'm saying is everybody's useful in that fight. Now here's the issue, okay? And this is especially the case for this scenario. Statistically speaking, when people play a free-to-play game, they are likely going to quit the game basically after the first day. Okay, and this goes for basically 2/3 of the entire community. 2/3 of the player base for any given free-to-play game will quit after their first day of playing. Whether just the game's not for them or they don't like a mechanic in the game, whatever it may be, right? Say, for example, Warframe. Warframe is actually pretty difficult to get into the game as a new player because there's just so many systems that the game throws at you without telling you how to use them. For gacha games, some people might just get spammed by, tutorials that people just don't care about, so they quit. For Genshin, you figure Genshin is a open world gacha game. So when people run across the gacha system for the first time, they don't like gacha systems because maybe it hits their gambling addiction wrong or whatever, so they don't want to play the game anymore. Maybe they went through the gacha system, got Venti for the first time, and then said, oh, well, this game isn't for me. Okay? Now, say maybe they come back because they've seen people be able to beat the game with only the starter units. So then they come back and decide, well, I'm just not going to use the gacha system. So they end up having, say, 20,000, 100,000 Primo Gems and just never spend in the game. They don't spend their Primo Gems and they don't spend real cash. So basically, now you have these people with 7 to 8 units, and that's all they have. They don't have anybody else that they can switch to. So basically meaning their only other useful units in the Hashtaha fight are basically the starter characters that would likely deal significantly less damage than Venti. I think the only other person that would deal pretty much similar damage would be Zhang Ling. But Zhang Ling is a fire damage dealer, which means if Hashtaha has resistance to pyro damage, which you figure is a 66% resistance, okay, which means he's resisting 66% of the damage, then she would be useless in that fight. Compared to Venti, who can basically synergize with almost any elemental. So why are you going to tell somebody to switch from Venti? Now, I'll get more into this in the next video, but the thing is actually, yeah, no, I'll get into this topic in the next video. Basically, what I want to get across in this video is that you can't tell people to just switch characters in a gacha game. Now, see, hunky players understand this. Because before Genshin came out, the only reason you really knew about Hunky Impact is either A, you played mobile games, or B, you watched anime videos. Okay? Which if you watched anime videos, you were likely going to hit mobile games at some point in time anyways. Just because anime gacha games are pretty powerful at this point in time. And you start to understand the gacha system more and more and more as you play more gacha games, as you play gacha games longer. You start to understand the gacha system more and more. And you just can't control how people play their accounts. Okay, for my account on Genshin personally, I haven't built more than the first 4 characters. And I argued with somebody over this entire issue, and it's like, you can't just assume that because somebody is at AR55 that they have more than 7 characters. Some people don't. And especially built characters. I only have 4 built characters, and they're all starter characters. I don't even have a built Geo character. For Geo Traveler, I don't have any other versions of her built. I only have Animo. So quite literally the first 4 characters. That's all I have built. And even then, Kaya and Amber don't really have supreme artifacts like Lisa does. Okay? So you are going to force me to switch characters because you want me to use a specific unit, or you'd kick me? This is the reason why people don't like playing co-op in Genshin. See, Hunky Impact, there's none of this issue. First of all, people don't care about MVP in Honky Impact, and I've ran across one person that did because they play Genshin Impact, or they play Call of Duty, or whatever, and they care too much about MVP. Who cares about MVP in Honky Impact? All people are there for is to get their stuff and leave. That's it. No one cares about MVP in Honky Impact, unless they're a Genshin player. Oh, I want to deal the most damage. See, look, I dealt the most damage. Yeah, don't tell me to switch units. No one cares. No one cares. My entire 2 years of playing Honky Impact, I've ran across one person that cared about MVP. First of all, Heschers aren't the only ones that deal MVP. Okay, this player was telling me to switch off of Heschers because I was getting MVP. I was just using Heschers to get through the game faster. Honestly. Because the Hesher of the Void is pretty much the one unit that can get through that stage really, really quickly. And I don't have any other built ranged units, so I'm going to use the Hesher of the Void. You can expect me to have every single character built. Okay? Because again, Honky Impact is a gacha game. You can't tell this guy that's trying to use Venti that, to switch characters because maybe that's his only character that can actually get through the Ashtaha fight really quickly. Clearly, he dealt more damage. Not that it really mattered much, but clearly he dealt more damage. Basically, again, and I'm going to reiterate this once again, you cannot tell people to just switch units. Whether that be Honky, Genshin, whatever other gacha game especially it might be. You can't just tell people to switch. Okay? And like I said, I've had my own personal experience with it in Honky Impact. And Honky Impact is not as much of an issue as it is in Genshin. Okay, in Genshin, you have a much higher chance of running across this kind of issue. And here's the deal. Statistically speaking, 95% of the time, you're likely going to run across a free-to-play player. I know it'd be pretty rare to run across the rare scenario of them not really having their account built properly, but it happens. Okay, like I said, in Honky Impact, I don't have that many ranged characters built. Hesher the Void is pretty much my one and only built character. The only time I ever switch off of her is if somebody else joins in there. Because maybe they have her built more. Okay, my Hesher the Void is only an S rank. Maybe other people's Hesher the Void are at triple S rank because they spent more in the game, and so she'll deal more damage. So then I switch to somebody like Fischl or Elysia. Okay, but I'm not going to switch to Fischl or Elysia unless there's a Hesher of the Void in the match. It's the only time I'll ever switch units. Because Hesher of the Void can clear that map the quickest. And that's all I want to do. I want to get in, get my stuff, and get out. No one cares about MVP. I don't do it for MVP. I do it to get the map cleared. That other person, he easily could have said, I'm using Venti because Venti can clear this boss pretty quickly because he's my only unit built. That could have cleared that argument right up. That Venti is my only unit that can deal a lot of damage, and see, clearly I dealt a lot of damage. So clearly he's not useless in this fight. That is why I wanted to use him. Don't mention anything about MVP. Don't mention about anything about, oh, see, I dealt more damage. Don't tell me to switch units. Don't be petty. Right? Like that other player, it's like, I wouldn't have bragged if I was like, see, I still dealt more damage even with another unit. Like, I wouldn't have been that way. That other player would have be like, see, you're a noob because you used Heschers. That's how that other player would have been. And then I would have immediately told him, yeah, I don't care about MVP. I just want to clear the maps as fast as possible. You can get MVP all you want, but if you're not playing these stages correctly, you're not going to clear them anyways. Because the next stage after that, no, not the next stage. Stage 4 in that same co-op raid, you have to get a Humu to go around and pick up crowns. 99% of the time, I'm not going to get MVP in that stage because I'm not attacking every single enemy that shows up. Often, I don't even attack enemies that are around me because I'm just trying to get the Humu to pick up the crowns so that way I can end the stage. Do you know what a lot of players end up doing? They just sit there and kill enemies that just keep spawning in and don't do anything. It doesn't matter about MVP. Not every stage in Honky Impact matters about MVP. In most stages in Genshin, all you gotta do is finish the stage before the time limit. No one cares about MVP. It doesn't even show that up on the screen. No one cares. And that's the entire point. And especially in a gacha game, you can't just force people to switch units. You know, I remember... Okay, this is a little bit of a story from when I was making my Girls Frontline little series or whatever. You know, talking about its issues. A lot of players are telling me, oh, you suck at this game because your team is built like shit. You know what? Those are the first units I got in the game, and I built them the best way I could. I wasn't caring about counters. You know, again, it's another situation of you can't just tell people to switch units. Whether it's co-op or not, you can't, you know, that's the entire point of this video. You can't tell people to just switch units. And after my 4th or 5th time repeating that, I hope people understand that. Okay? Because, you know, this video has gone on quite long, actually. But, you know, again, it's another reason why people don't like the Genshin community, because it's really bad with the Genshin community. I would say the Genshin community probably has more whales than most other gacha games. Okay? Just because console players and PC players tend to have a lot more money than phone players do. Because phone players are spending in more than one game. Typically. I am. Right? So they can't really whale as easily as you can on a console game. But, yeah. Anyways. Rant over. I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Later.
What have you done? I saw that! Those poor ducks! It was for the pigeons. Go away! I never want to see you again! Ever! I'm telling Mommy!